And good afternoon, folks. We're going to be talking about something you don't hear a lot, particularly in right-wing circles. Now, my audience is primarily MAGA. You're welcome on the program any day, all day, and any points you make. I don't block, ban, or censor comments. However, you often hear folks suggesting that President Trump is, for the most part, trying to make this a better nation. He is simply bombastic, and folks do not like him because, well, he's not a typical politician. He's not playing by the rules, and he's trying to do what's in the best interest of the country. However, with all of the charges and cases that are surrounding President Trump, many folks believe that he's being railroaded by the system. They don't want him in there because he's not a good old boy. He's not a politician. But today we're going to be tackling the question of, if Trump is indeed an innocent individual that is being railroaded by the system, why are so many major legal law firms refusing to represent him? What is it about President Trump as a client that has led to so many law firms dropping him and refusing to defend him? Now, clearly President Trump is a man of nearly unlimited financial resources, certainly enough to defend any case. He claimed to be worth $10 billion himself when he came down the escalator in 2015. I believe his phrase was, "I am rich. I'm very rich." And that was in opposition, or better yet, defending his wealth, because the previous candidate, Mitt Romney, in 2012, had been hammered by the left because he was wealthy. Whereas Trump was trying to state that I am going to embrace my wealth. I'm not afraid of it, and I don't have a problem admitting it. Which is why a lot of MAGA folks embrace the guy and love Trump, because he spoke his mind. But we're asking the question, would someone as wealthy as President Trump, having unlimited financial resources, not to mention access to a host of donors that are willing to help defend President Trump, the politician, against any charges that they believe are essentially fabricated out of thin air? If Trump has access to unlimited wealth, why are so many attorneys not willing to take his case? This is a windfall, folks. You could charge this man, obviously, millions of dollars. You're defending a former president. Not to mention, you think Johnny Cochran made a career of himself by defending O.J. Simpson? How does it look if you can say your firm helped the former president win his case and push away the naysayers and haters? Why would any law firm turn down President Trump as a client? Not to mention several. We're going to be talking about that in the box today and on the show. I'm just trying to figure out, for folks who believe that Trump is indeed being railroaded by the system, why are so many folks or so many law firms refusing to defend this guy? He should have law firms in line. And I'm talking top legal firms. I'm not talking about, some underground lawyer that charges $10,000 to retain. I'm talking about top firms. A lot of firms have refused to work with President Trump. An innocent client, former president of the United States, what better claim could you ask for? Why would they not want that? Access to would you not want that? Talking about that. Now, looking in the comments, Danger Flu says, look what he did to Rudolph Giuliani. There are rumors that Rudolph Giuliani is going broke and that President Trump did not pay him. If that is the case, that may be an issue. That may be an issue for future attorneys to not want him as a client, because apparently he has a rumor that he doesn't settle his debts. But we'll see. First of all, he doesn't pay, says Toxin 420. So there's another individual. Is there a rumor orbiting around the former president that he does not pay his debts? That certainly would run attorneys away from you. because that's what they operate based on is finance. All attorneys want to get rich. They want power and fame just like any other law firm. And if you're known for not paying, yeah, that could be a problem. One, two, I do see you in there. D1, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm
I
doing
just
good.
want to,
Why wouldn't they want to work with Trump?
because the type of person that he doesn't listen to any suggestions of any of his lawyers, and he doesn't pay
Okay,
them. And
real quick, if you got something, you got a radio or television, something in the
oh,
background, it's overtaking you.
I'm just watching crooked CNN.
Okay. Well, turn it down a little bit because I'm hearing them a little almost as much as you. So it's interfering with your audio. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
he doesn't listen to any suggestions, and he can't close his mouth.
Yeah. Well, and certainly if you're working with an attorney, that's the first thing they're going to suggest is that you let them handle your PR. In other words, public relations or whatever. Your statement should come through your attorney. You shouldn't be tweeting in the middle of the night. I do get that. But you're talking about being able to make millions of dollars off the guy. You think they turn that down just because he won't shut up?
No, and the fact that every time an attorney gets involved with Trump, they get indicted, go to jail.
Are you suggesting that President Trump himself? Because I've always been told, and my audience being primarily MAGA, I've always been told that whatever Trump touches turns to gold. Are you suggesting that he's actually toxic?
Yes, his current attorney who signed that document stating that the
Mhm.
documents were turned over, he
Right.
has an attorney now. MEGA
Damn.
stands for Make Attorneys Get Attorneys. It's sad.
Wait a minute. What did you say it stands for again?
Make Attorneys Get Attorneys.
That's the first I've ever heard of that. MAGA stands for Make Attorneys Get Attorneys. Wow. So I guess based on what you're suggesting, that yeah, it probably is not in your best career interest politically, or better yet, financially, or whatever the case may be, to represent President Trump. So you don't see him as being railroaded then?
No, Trump can't stop committing crimes. If the people can't see, he had no right to those documents. Documents are missing. Let me see, the perfect phone call. The whole world heard him ask Georgia officials to find what
Yeah.
11,780 votes. He tried to blackmail the Ukraine. A perfect phone call. Only the Coke believes in this gentleman, and I'm using the word gentleman sparingly.
So considering what you are suggesting, some of the nefarious activity that you believe Trump has been involved in, I have to ask you, why do you think so many people have such strong support for him even to this day?
Because it's pride. They don't want to admit that they was totally wrong about this about Trump. See, they wanted Obama to be like Trump.
Wait a
They
minute. How
thought
can wait a minute?
they thought
Obama can't be like
Obama.
Obama can't wait. Obama cannot be like Trump because Obama preceded Trump. I don't explain what you mean. I don't get that.
They thought that Obama would be as crooked as Trump and
Oh,
as and,
oh.
and incompetent as Trump.
Okay. Well, you'd have to be. Let's just be honest. Any African American that operated as the first in his field, first black general, first black anything, they typically have to be above and better than average. The last thing you would expect is for the first black president in America to even try anything corrupt. You already know they're watching you just because you're the first to do something corrupt. It would have to be suicidal almost.
Just think of it like this. Uh, Obama got Bush economy, what was terrible.
Yeah.
You was mentioning it the other day, yesterday, as a matter of fact. Trump got Obama's economy that was booming, 75 straight months of GDP growth, lowest
Mhm.
unemployment. What did Trump
Right.
what did Trump hand over to Biden? 10 million lost jobs, a raging pandemic, and they
Oh, you
still
can't.
trying to
Wait,
blame this.
but you can't. You're not blaming Trump for the pandemic, are you?
Yes, he knew.
Well,
I know you heard the phone call of that Washington Post reporter
give me
when
what.
he
What do you mean?
when he knew how deadly it was and he was going to downplay it. You
Oh
never heard
yeah,
that?
yeah. I am aware of that. So in other words, as what you're really saying is that Trump mishandled the pandemic almost in a deliberate sense.
Yeah, he put the economy over lives in a nutshell. The same thing DeSantis done.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you that if you think that Trump put the economy over the lives of Americans during the pandemic, I would assume that if you have that mindset, that you think DeSantis is guilty of the same thing because they both were fighting to keep the economy open. Trump actually did shut down the country for a short period of time, whereas DeSantis was really fighting to keep things going.
Yeah. Do you recall when it was like sacrifice your grandparents if you truly love this country?
I don't know if I heard that, but what about K Bugs in the comments? K Bug 68 says Trump is the best president ever. I get that a lot on this program. What's leading people to say that? I mean, and listen, folks, even if you believe that Trump's economy was awesome, his job numbers. There's some economic things about Trump that were good. But why? I'm gonna ask you this, D1. Why do you think so many people think he's the best president out of all of the 47, 46 presidents we've had? Why do people think that he's the best president ever? What has he done to rank him as number one?
He let the racists, he allowed the racists to speak their mind. A lot of this divisiveness, they used to be in the closet underneath the rocks, but now Trump gave them the voice to say what they really feel.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, listen, I do got to move it on D1. I'm on a lunch break talk.
All
Appreciate
right,
you
man.
coming through as always. Hey,
You have a
catch you on the
wonderful
next
day,
one. Good.
man. Thank you.
You too. Good talk. You too. Comments real quick. Hey Tim, do you think Republicans are still racist? That old 60-60. Are Republicans racist? No, not all of them. I mean, there's some Democrats. Farrakhan, I think, is definitely racist. I don't know if he's voting Democrat, but what the point I'm trying to make is there are racists swarming around every party. However, for some reason, it does seem to be apparent that the racists on the Republican Party seem to come out anytime you have Republican gatherings. I'm not talking about folks who believe we should have a strong economy or folks who defend Trump. I'm talking about folks who show up with openly racist symbols, like the guy at the Capitol building protesting the election he believes was not held properly, wearing a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt. What does that have to do with an election? What does the Confederate flag have to do with the 2020 election? I'm talking about people like that. If you show up to a Biden rally with the other four people, because nobody shows up to a Biden rally, but if you show up to a Biden rally with a shirt saying something about white people or something like that, I'm going to call that out as well. But make no mistake about it, these folks are showing up to Trump gatherings. So when the FBI or some other government organization suggests that Trump has inadvertently led to an outpouring of intolerance, I have to ask, why are there not people at Trump gatherings who are responsible for paying attention to the crowd and getting those folks out of there? That's all you have to do. If you go to a Biden rally or even a Trump rally and you're heckling the president constantly, they can find out who you are. If you're openly wearing racist symbols, you got people in the crowd that can see that. Why not just hire a few people to get those folks out? As he said about Colin Kaepernick, get that son of a bitch off the field. Why not get rid of those people? They seem to feel like they are welcome at Trump gatherings. Okay, looking at the comments, or better yet, the box. Danger. And freedom of speech, says Marky Mark. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. If you want to say what you want to say, that's fine. But there are going to be certain gatherings, public events, locations where people are going to ask you to leave if you're talking the way you want. You're not getting arrested for it, but they don't want you there. That's all you got to do. Danger. Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Have you listened to the program?
Yeah, I've been listening for a bit. Get back to the original topic with, about why Trump can't get an attorney. Now, I don't want to comment on whether or not he paid Giuliani because that's rumor. Like, we don't know.
Okay.
He could have, he could not.
Well, yeah. And by the way, folks, tap this. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy to 5,000 likes. Bring me some more MAG in here. But there's certainly rumors floating around that Giuliani is not doing well financially. Why do you think those rumors are even there?
Well, we don't know. We don't know if that's because of Rudy Giuliani's own financial choices, or if that's because Trump didn't pay him. Now, if you're going to put yourself in a position financially to where you're depending on one paycheck like that, like, as an attorney, you know what I mean? Like, they have multiple clients.
That happens, though. If you're defending the president of the United States, you probably should just be working on that case. You shouldn't be dealing with multiple cases if you're defending the president of the United States. He should be paying you a premium to the point where he is your only client. I mean, you're not defending some business guy. You're defending the president of the United States.
We don't know all of the circumstances behind Giuliani's personal finances. You know what I mean? He could have made bad investments. All we know, he could have, done anything like that. I think more so why he can't get, but look at what has happened to Giuliani besides that. They've gone after him. The whole entire system has gone after Giuliani because he was with Trump. And attorneys, a lot of times, they don't want to take that kind of risk. You know what I mean? Well, that kind of blowback.
Yeah, they don't want to. Wait a minute. If you're not doing anything wrong as an attorney, who's going to come after you?
Oh, the system. I do believe that there is a some kind of system that is against Trump to a point. Like, I think, and there's a system. Like,
go ahead.
Democrats are obviously, look, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Like, I'm a complete constitutionalist. I think we should get rid of and shut down 3/4 of the government. That's my opinion.
Let me interrupt you real quick. I just want to respond to a comment because I see Smitty in the comments suggesting he's being ignored. He asked for proof that give me proof of Trump being racist. I can show you where by it. There is no proof of a person never being racist because proof requires you to confess. And since very few folks ever confess of being intolerant, anything they say or do can always be interpreted to mean something else. I could have an entire apartment complex, refuse to rent to white people, and come up with an alternative reason for why I'm doing it. And supporters of me are going to say that's why he's doing it. He's not racist. Anyway, go ahead, Danger.
Well, I think there is a bit of a system-wide attack. Democrats tend to weaponize, institutions, especially, it's been done before. And I think there's a certain amount of that.
Give me an example of a Democrat weaponizing an institution.
Well, look at Congress right now. Any of these, look at the members that are on the board for these investigation groups. Number one,
what do
they have for, all right, was it the January 6th commission? Look at the people that were chosen on that board, because they have the group that was assigned by Congress to investigate this. Okay. You look at the politicians that are involved in that. They have a token Republican. Like, shouldn't it be half-half?
Wait, how do you give me the token? Are you suggesting that Liz Cheney is a token Republican?
Yes, I am. 100%.
She votes with Trump over 90% of the time. How can she be a token Republican?
Liz Cheney? We're talking about the same Liz
If you
Cheney,
here's the point I'm making. If you look at Liz Cheney, January 5th, the day before the 6th happened, no one will be suggesting that she's a token Republican. Everything she had done up till January 6th shows that she was true blue conservative. Where did the tokenism come from?
well, that's the thing. And I think that's another part of it where they can, and the Republicans are guilty of it too. They demonize and they'll use the system as a weapon, just like they did to Liz Cheney after she disagreed with Trump. You see what I mean? Like it happens on both sides.
So how
Like
does she become a token? I'm trying to go to your original statement. You said token Republicans. What about Liz Cheney makes her a token?
I don't really care for the way she really left. Okay, as a party, they should stay together, and if you may not like it, but 90%, the Democrats are way better at that than what Republicans are. Like they'll band together, they'll all vote for it. Doesn't matter, like they vote in tandem. And she just kind of like, she left and broke away. She's like, okay. And then she just went on the bash Trump train, because I feel personally that she went on the bash Trump train after the January 6th stuff, because she thought that that's way things were leaning. You know what I mean?
Well, wait a minute. Here's where you're losing me. If you look at January 6th, you're talking about after January 6th, Liz Cheney went on the bash Trump train. If you look at the speeches that Republican senators in Congress were giving the evening of January 6th, they all were bashing them. The only difference is Liz Cheney showed consistency, and she maintained her stance from January 6th on. All the other Republicans flip-flop. Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell were on TV blaming Trump directly for that stuff. And then the next day they had a difference of opinion. So
exactly. I can understand where you're coming from. And that's the crazy thing. It's so hard to keep up with any of this stuff because everybody does flip-flop so much. 1 minute they stand for this, 1 minute they stand for that. 1 minute and the American people don't seem to remember. And it's not just Liz Cheney that's guilty of doing that. It's a bunch of people. All of them are. Every last politician, they're all guilty of that. 1 minute they stand, I'm here to stand with you. And they get the rally and they get the people behind them and then get to office and then nothing gets done. And it's Republicans and Democrats. I think the reason why people like Trump so much is he's genuine. He acts like himself. He doesn't act or put up a front. You know what I mean? He's Trump.
Wait a minute. If Trump suggested that, I mean, like you believe Trump is being consistent, is what you're saying.
He's being genuine. He's being his actual self. He's not putting on the political face. We see. Go ahead.
So when
he's not putting on the political face, he's being genuinely himself.
Okay, so when he says stuff like COVID's going to disappear by April based on nothing, you don't see that. You see that as being genuine?
I see that. Yeah, I see that. I see him being genuine as a person is what I mean. He's not putting on any kind of fronts. Now, does he say stupid stuff? Absolutely. But that's part of like his that's part of him. Like that's his, personality.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out, what's the difference between being genuine and being better yet? What's the difference between saying stupid stuff, as you put it, and being dishonest? Are there any differences between that?
Or I think the intention behind it, because if the intention behind it is to deceive, then you're being dishonest. I think your intentions matter in that case. You know what I mean?
So if he said, I don't know who Stormy Daniels is, I don't know who this woman is that being stupid or is that being intentionally dishonest?
Oh, that was intentionally dishonest because he absolutely knows who the lady is. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. I don't know. Right. I tend to. Bill Clinton did the same thing. And you guys hated Bill Clinton. He got impeached. You hated him. So I'm trying to figure out why folks like Trump for doing the exact same thing. Let me give you another example. He tweets out a video with a guy in the beginning of the video yelling pretty loudly, white power, and Trump suggested he didn't hear that before tweeting it out. Is that saying something stupid or being deliberately dishonest? That's hard to tell because you could say, that's very hard to tell in that situation, I would think, because
elaborate.
depends on the whole entire situation. I'm not somebody to say whether or not he heard it or not. Like I try to really stay out of those kind of, like.
Okay, and that's a fair point, but I have to ask you this. With President Trump being a very successful businessman over a period of decades, who's obviously signed numerous contracts and knows the value of making sure anything that represents him he can be held legally responsible for. You really believe he would tweet out something and not know the very first words involved in the tweet that are being yelled out? He would actually tweet something out without listening to it first as the president?
Oh, I could definitely now Trump's relationship with Twitter, I'm not a fan of. Again, okay. I think what he does, it's hard to say, but if I was to guess, you're asking me my opinion, I'll give my opinion. I would think that Trump is the type of person to sit there. He would definitely do it on a cuff. I could see him doing something like that on a cuff. I'm walking to the plane. I'm quick. I've got a few seconds. I'm going to blast this Twitter. I'm going to hit the send button and make it easy. You know what I mean? Like, I get your point,
but I get your point. So, but my question would be, if you didn't listen to the tweet, why are you sending it out? You don't know what's on it. It could be saying Trump is a sexual predator. If you didn't listen to it, what's encouraging you to send that out?
Yeah, I mean, look, can I agree that it's definitely a dumb move? For sure, it's a dumb move.
Well, I'm not asking if it's a dumb move. I'm trying to get you to be sincere on whether or not you think the man actually heard what he tweeted out. You're giving me reasons why he may have not heard it. Go ahead.
He could have. He could not have. I would say, I mean, I don't really have an opinion on whether he did or not, honestly, because like I said, each situation is different. I don't know. I didn't even watch it or see any of it, honestly. Like I didn't see any of it. The tweet. I don't know anything of. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let me follow with this question. As opposed to whether he heard it or not, do you think he should be held accountable for it? Let's say you sign a contract. Yeah, you sign a contract and you actually agree to something in the contract, and your response, well, I didn't really read it. Should you be held accountable for what you're tweeting out, whether you heard it or not?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
so. If you tweet out white power,
I think everybody should be held accountable for your actions. Even if it's a mistake, you know what I mean? Everybody needs to be held accountable. So even if now,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm a big fan of personal responsibility. You know what I mean? For sure.
Right. Okay. Well, I got to move it on, but let me ask you this before I let you go. If Trump tweets out a video with a guy yelling white power, whether he heard it or not, and you agree that he should be held accountable for it, how do you think African Americans should view him for that if he's being held accountable?
I think they should make their own decisions individually, honestly, and make their own assessment.
Okay. Okay, so if Barack Obama tweeted out a video yelling black power or something that was anti-white, and you had to make an assertion or you had to analyze his video, and it was clearly something that was anti-white, how would you personally take it if you had to hold him accountable? What would be your viewpoint of it?
I would try the best I can to look at the whole entire circumstance, because I did vote for Obama. So, I would try to take into account a little bit more detail around that. And yeah, I would definitely hold him accountable.
Well, what other details would you hope to find in regards to if I tweet out a video that's anti-white and you want to take the whole video into account, what else are you hoping to find?
You've got to take it all into context. So what I would do is I definitely wouldn't take it out, take just that part. I would try to watch the whole video if there was one.
Okay.
I would try to get a good context on it and figure out whether or not I felt in my heart he actually meant it. You know what I mean?
Well, okay. So what if you were taking it into account, like you said, you want to see the whole video in context, and you've seen reporters presenting what was in the video to Trump, and he simply said he didn't hear it, but he's not apologizing for any of it. What do you do at that point?
Well, I'd make my personal judgment and be like, hey, I'm not voting for that person, or I'm just gonna not, I'd cut the content out, you know what I mean? Not buy their product, not listen to them, just cut them out of my, yeah, just like everybody else would,
All
you know,
right, fair
I
enough.
think.
Fair
But
enough. All right,
at
well, I
that
gotta move
point,
it on. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
thanks for the combo. I agree. I enjoyed it. Thanks for the combo.
Absolutely. You're always welcome back, man. Pleasure talking to you. First time talking? Okay. All right. I think that might have been our first time. I'm just going to say this. I always enjoy talking to MAGA, but I will tell you this. Adam Kinzinger, about a month or so ago on the Sunday shows, I believe it was This Week with George Stephanopoulos, in regards to the January 6th hearings, because he's on the January 6th committee. He's a Republican representative. I'm not talking about the DOJ and Merrick Garland, because that had not been the case yet. But in regards to the January 6th hearings, Adam Kinzinger stated that in about 5 years, you're going to have a hard time finding anyone that admits they once voted for Trump. I understand that sounds ridiculous right now. I'll explain it to you. You guys can let me know. You can tell me to kick rocks in the comments. I invite your dissension. However, what Adam Kinzinger is trying to suggest is that Trump is going to fall so far on the wrong side of history, nobody's going to want to admit they supported him. I always use the example of the Board of Education versus Topeka, Kansas. That's a case, not to bring race into it, but that's about a case of an African-American child, elementary school, little female girl going to an elementary school, a white school. They had just passed a law promoting integration of schools. And you had all these parents, white parents, spitting on her when she went to school, and they had to have the National Guard going with. Why the hell am I bringing this up? Because a lot of those folks that were against this African-American girl going to school and were yelling all kinds of racial slogans, some of those folks are still alive today. Try finding any of them that admitted that they took part in that. Point is, it's fallen on the wrong side of history so far that no one wants to admit they actually supported what happened to that young girl. Well, that's what Adam Kinzinger is suggesting is going to happen to Trump. I'm only bringing that up because my audience is primarily MAGA. I enjoy talking to MAGA, and I'm starting to get more and more folks in my little tiny corner of social media. I understand it's not representative of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm starting to get more and more folks that openly are defending Trump, but starting to suggest, well, I'm not really a Trumper. I'm not really MAGA. I am starting to get folks who you can clearly hear they are MAGA that are refusing to admit it. I want to find out, have you guys also started seeing that? That you're starting to see folks that you can tell support Trump being a bit hesitant in admitting it. Going back to the box. Biden not a Trump supporter with a name like Biden. That last guy is MAGA. He's not. Okay. Do you believe what you are saying? Shake, 1991. I invite you to come to the box. Yes, I do believe what I'm saying, and I would love to hear your opinion, even if it's an adverse of mine. You'll get full time, no banning, no censorship. Biden, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my guy. So a few minutes ago, you asked why so many Trump supporters constantly tell you he's the best president ever, and I'm here to give you your answer. Your answer
Sure.
is because he said that, and they're fucking parrots because they're in a cult.
Give me, oh my God!
A perfect example of that is Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is one of the most openly conservative people in the country, but now they're calling her a rhino because she doesn't like Trump anymore.
Yeah. So
the reality is,
go ahead.
Well, go ahead. The reality is, if anyone's a rhino,
some examples. We must have a little delay. I'll just say this and let you talk. Give me some examples of why you believe Trump supporters, I'm assuming some, not all, Trump supporters are cult-like. Give me some examples of that.
Well, Liz Cheney is a perfect example. Now they're calling her a rhino because he said that she's a rhino, when in reality, Trump is the rhino.
Yeah, I agree with that. Give me another one.
He said he was the greatest president ever, and they're all in your comments telling you he's the greatest president ever. He
Yeah,
said he said he built the strongest economy ever, and they tout that when that's not actually true either.
yeah. I've had that. I actually had a show titled "Is Trump the GOAT, the greatest of all time?" And I had no shortage of MAGA suggesting that he is. And I asked that question. When you talk about beating the British, George Washington, freeing slaves, Abraham Lincoln, sending a man to the moon, John F. Kennedy, defeating the Soviet Union, Ronald Reagan. What has Trump done to put him in a conversation like that? I could not get a good answer out of folks. And I'm like, what has he really done? I mean, if you think he's a good president, that's fine. There are reasons to allude to that. I can work with that. But the greatest of all time?
I would come back to that with most of the people that are thoroughly MAGA are too stupid to even come up with a reason for you.
Oh, you think Giuliani is? I think Giuliani is thoroughly MAGA.
I don't think Giuliani. I don't necessarily think Giuliani's an idiot. I don't necessarily think Trump's as dumb as we'd like to believe he is. The voter is who's dumb.
Okay. Yeah, I think Trump's a very smart guy.
A perfect example of how dumb Republican voters are is southern states continuously vote red, even though the top 12 of the top 15 states with the most people on food stamps are thoroughly red states, most of which are in the South. 13 of the top 15 poorest states are thoroughly red states, mostly which are in the South. And 12 of the top 15 most uneducated states are thoroughly red states, mostly in the South.
Well, you know they're going to counter with the crime in liberal cities, the gun bans.
Yeah,
I mean, there's liberal areas. Yeah, liberal areas have their share of problems too. I'm not going to. I get your point, but there are some liberal areas that folks could ask why you keep voting liberal. I mean, that could go either way.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Most of the evangelical Republicans in the South are voting against their own best interests because it's about 5-1 people on food stamps in the South versus the northern states.
Yeah. But evangelicals aren't necessarily voting in terms of economic reason. They're voting for stuff like pro-life, pro-Christianity. They're not voting based on that.
I understand that, but I'm saying though, these people vote against their own interests, and they're so dumb they don't even realize they're doing it. Because if Republicans really had their way, they would end all the social programs in the country. I mean, their 2024 platform has ending Social Security in it.
Yeah. So give me an interest of evangelicals that's going to be struck down if they vote for Republicans.
Well, that's true. I don't know if there really is one because their biggest issue seems to be abortion.
Yeah. So they got what they want. Evangelicals, in my opinion, even being a liberal, in my opinion, if you are an evangelical, yeah, you absolutely should be voting for a Republican. Certainly if the sanctity of life is your biggest issue. Now, social programs could also be interpreted under the phrase, what would Jesus do? In other words, would he let folks be homeless and things like that? Now, if you're an evangelical, that also should be in your interest. And yeah, voting Republicans who want to cut out every social program and let folks fall as they may. As an evangelical, you should be against that. But right now, it does seem like they are more in favor of preserving the sanctity of life in terms of pro-life, pro-choice decisions. So at this point, yeah, they should be voting for Republicans.
And the goal, and it seems to me that the goal of the Republican Party is to try to keep the masses uneducated.
How so?
Well, they're trying to whitewash history. They don't want to teach the whole history of the country. I seen a guy on here yesterday that goes to Trump rallies, talking about how DeSantis is trying to get them to teach that Washington and Jefferson were against slavery when they owned slaves, and these two MAGA people he was talking to were saying that they were against slavery when they actually owned slaves. Now, how can people actually be that stupid?
Yeah. I do agree that the Republican Party wants history told in a way that is not necessarily accurate. I certainly believe that. I mean, because I debate with folks about the Confederate flag and the Confederacy all the time, and you'd be amazed at how many folks tell you that the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery, or I mean, the Irish slaves had it just as bad as African Americans. Yeah, it is. I do agree that I don't know if I want to say they want to keep folks uneducated, but they do want to control the amount of education you receive. Now, you could argue the same thing with liberals, though, trying to teach LGBT issues to elementary school children and things like that before they even teach them about heterosex. I mean, I didn't have health until I was in ninth grade. And you got some elementary schools now trying to teach very young children about LGBT issues, and you have to. Is that appropriate to teach a child at that young age?
No, no, I don't think that's appropriate, but it's also not appropriate to whitewash history. So some things need to change on both sides.
Fair point.
I mean, how could you sit there and try to teach people that owned slaves were against slavery? I mean, there's something seriously wrong with your brain if you're going to try to teach people that.
Well, a lot of our history is not necessarily based on accuracy, but rather American exceptionalism. And if you want to portray America as the best, most freest country on earth, you gotta not tell the truth about some shit. Otherwise, it falls all apart. So, such as even some of the things going on right now where they're trying to pass a criminal justice reform bill because people are serving ridiculous sentences and things like that. Well, if you're the most free country on earth, you kind of got to explain why you also are the most heavily incarcerated country on earth. That kind of goes against freedom. So we have to downplay some stuff to make the narrative fit. Biden, I'll give you the last one.
I can explain that to a point because the Republican Party perpetuated a fake war on drugs, which was really a war on minorities. That's why the prison system's so bad. While literally flooding minority neighborhoods with cocaine via the CIA.
Okay, wow, that's deep shit. All right, Biden, got to move it on, man.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Good talk. I will say this in regards to the war on drugs. I think looking back, what do they call it? Monday morning quarterbacking, hindsight. Most politicians on both sides are willing to admit it disproportionately targeted communities of color and folks that were impoverished. Our entire justice system, make no mistake about it, if you're poor and you get caught up in the justice system, if you don't have money, you're going to face a harsher outcome than somebody with money, regardless of skin color. However, I can't necessarily agree that only Republicans should be held responsible for the horrors, and I'm putting that in quotes, the horrors of the war on drugs. Bill Clinton was president during that time, and a lot of Democratic senators, such as Joe Biden. Joe Biden was there during that time, and he was in favor of that stuff. Same thing with Kamala Harris. She locked up a lot of African Americans. So I agree with the previous caller that the war on drugs was horrible towards the black community. I just got to disagree that only Republicans should be held responsible for that. The whole country was in on that shit. All of our political leaders, left and right, was being promoted by their constituents to be tough on crime and do it in a manner that targeted communities of color, minorities, and folks who are low on the socioeconomic scale. Your financial guru, a friend of... Always happy to have financial guru back. Good afternoon, sir.
What's going on, my friend? Your topic's all over the board. So where do you want me to go with this? I got about 19 fragments floating in my head on things I want to add along the way. So
give me the one most concerned.
Well, I get aggravated when people lack continuity of memory, and they bring up just like current racial things. That these problems have been way more systemic and different than you think. And there aren't multiple parties. And I get mad when people say the Republicans this or Democrats that. There are people that are in power and want to stay in power. And they'll switch whatever label they need to switch to keep their power. Liz Cheney's a great example. You think she's really a conservative for the people, you're nuts. She's not. Her dad was a war
I don't.
criminal. Dick Cheney was the antichrist of the Republican Party and put a dummy up called George Bush Jr. to prop up as president, and he was a CIA asset. You could trace him back.
Okay, well, let me
So it's all
respond to
that
that.
kind of stuff, right?
Let me respond to your stance on Dick Cheney. And listen, make no mistake about it, us liberals have the same mindset you have of Dick Cheney. However, here's what us liberals tend to question and have a problem with. The majority of MAGA that are over the age of 50, if they voted, they also voted for Dick Cheney and George W. Bush. So it is kind of hypocritical, at least to us liberals, to hear MAGA, now that they don't like Liz Cheney, pointing out the flaws of her dad, when a lot of them supported him. Us liberals did not vote for George Bush or Dick Cheney. The right voted for him. The same folks that are telling us how bad they are now.
Well, if you want to go with that same theory, then you want to get into all that. Well, then you got to say nobody changes their mind ever. Is that what you're going to tell me? That people can't change their mind?
Well, if that's the case, then we should stop talking about Joe Biden and Senator Byrd and all of the stuff he did. I agree with you. People can change their mind, but it's got to play on both sides. Then quit bringing up.
I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm not saying it shouldn't. It's part of the problem. That's the situational design. That's situational design that's happened. Because if we stay divided, I'm Team Blue, I'm Team Red. Screw you, Team Blue. Screw you, Team Red. You never stop long enough to understand you're a stupid hamster in the wheel, and they're running you till you drop dead.
Well, I'm just simply suggesting that during the Iraq War, with folks like Cindy Sheehan and MSNBC, we were constantly stating that war was bullshit and getting attacked hardcore from the right. You had folks like Bill O'Reilly attacking the whole nation of France. Call them freedom fries. Don't even call them French fries no more, because we were not in favor of the Iraq War. Now who's telling us that the Iraq War was corrupt? The right wing. Trump has suggested that the Iraq War was the dumbest mistake in history. Well, shit, he should have ran as a liberal. Go.
Well, but that's just it. Back before Trump did do this last election, all the liberals did love him. He was accepted in all kinds of circles. All of a sudden, he announced he's going to run for president. All hell breaks loose. Now he's the worst thing on the planet. He's getting picked at by conservative, quote-unquote, Republicans. He's getting picked at by the media constantly, being picked at by liberals constantly. Orange man is bad. He writes bad tweets, booga booga. All this crap, nonstop. And I'm like, you just stop screaming for 1 minute, all you clowns, and just breathe and look? Just breathe and look. But they don't do that. Everyone wants to scream their opinion the most, and I'm hurt the most. I'm the biggest victim. Oh, me, the whole system beat me up.
Okay, let me ask you this in regards to the ridiculous notion of going after Trump the minute he announced he was going to run. Do you think any of that birther movement where he tried to disqualify the president before him had anything to do with why people hated him? I mean, he tried to attack Barack Obama from day one. So do you think that might have had anything to do with why the minute he became president, people were attacking him?
I'm fine with the left using that as the reason, right? Because that's, because it's like the one previous caller stated, there's very much a group think amongst the left movement. If whoever comes the idea, everyone else gets in lockstep. And so I can understand that from that group. But for the quote-unquote conservatives, right? For the quote-unquote, as the left says, all the racist conservatives, right? All those racist white people. Hold on. Then they should have turned on Trump over that, right? That shouldn't have been an issue, but they did. They kicked it in his face, too.
Hold on, you got to let me in somewhere. You're throwing out a lot of stuff without answering the question. He spent years suggesting that President Obama should not even be a legitimate president because he was born in Kenya. Then right when he got elected, he came out and said, yes, Barack Obama was born in America, period. Do you think he deserved any type of negative viewing for wrongfully suggesting that Barack Obama was born somewhere else? Or should we just...
I didn't say he didn't. I never said that. That's why I said I was making the point other to the fact that I could understand why one group would give him shit about it, versus others, right? But it wasn't. It was like the whole damn system said this guy sucks, and they all picked one uniform message: Orange Man bad, and everybody went at him and threw rocks. And yes, he say stuff. Does he say stuff out
Why,
of context? And yes, does he get misquoted? Yes,
why
sure.
would
And
they
he does
say?
stuff that's wrong, but he's human. Whatever.
Why would everybody in unison say an innocent guy is bad? Why would they just criticize him for no reason at all?
Well, my personal opinion, or what you want for the public narrative, because they don't align.
Give me your personal opinion.
My personal opinion is that he's part of the tip of a spear to put an end to this system once and for all. He's but one man in the front line of all this, and he has to put on the show while other things go on behind the scenes. There's stuff that's happening in the financial markets that's being corrected. JP Morgan traders went to jail. Dude, nobody's went to jail for doing financial crimes since Milken got perp walked in 86. Actual hedge fund traders went to jail and suffered financial penalties. That has never happened until now. Unheard of.
Bernie Madoff going to prison under the Obama administration. You don't see anything. The Enron going to
No. Hold on. He pulled a humongous Ponzi scheme. I don't care who's in administration. I'm talking Joe guys. Like there's systemic stuff and there's one-off clowns, right? Like Bernie Madoff was a one-arm scam artist. There's a couple people that went to jail like doing the scams like that.
Bernie Madoff was a one-off. You realize how many folks have went to prison?
No. What I'm saying to you is not like a huge banking institution that builds fraud into the system and all their clowns walk away protected. Goldman Sachs is a great example. Everybody at Goldman Sachs in the year 2008 should be in prison. They're not. They committed so much fraud. They should have all went to prison. It caused me to change my career. I was so sick of it. The industry, I pivoted, right? So that happens. What I'm saying is the big guys, not Bernie Madoff. He was a big guy to a bunch of people. He hurt a bunch of people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the one systemic ones that do it every day, like the daily banksters, they went to jail. And that has not happened. And Biden's president. So, hey, Biden's president. This happened during Biden. So put down your Democrat dukes. So, like I said, I don't care who the administration is. I don't care. I'm looking at what actually happens.
Let me ask you this. So you believe that a lot of the targeting of President Trump was because he was there to basically drain the swamp and correct corruption. Is that true?
Well, he was the only president in history to make it an executive order that 2 regulations had to be removed before they put a new one on. And the other president could have done that.
Okay, that's a fair point. So I'm going to present 2 cases to you, and I want you to give me your honest personal opinion on it. The first being Sheriff Joe Arpaio down in Phoenix. I'm sure you're familiar with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He used to be a celebrity judge or celebrity sheriff. He was deliberately ordering his deputies to stop and frisk folks who look like Hispanics because they have a huge illegal immigration problem down there in Arizona. But you're stopping and frisking natural-born American citizens and people who have obtained their residency, essentially violating people's Fourth Amendment rights. He was charged and convicted and found guilty by a court of law and about to be sentenced. Trump pardoned him. Now, I'm going to give you a second example. Now, that's a person that Trump pardoned that is clearly violating and committing acts that are really racist because he's stopping only Hispanics. But I'm going to give you a second example. Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon apparently had a program where you could pay money to get your name on a brick that would be put on the wall that they were going to build. He has now been charged with crimes in regards to collecting money for that. And as opposed to putting it to anything that he collected it for, spending it on himself, 3 of his cohorts in the same program have already been charged, and they got cases coming up as well. Trump pardoned Steve Bannon, who has also been found guilty of corporate corruption or whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to ask you this. If Trump is supposedly draining the swamp, how does pardoning Steve Bannon and Sheriff Joe Arpaio fall in line with that?
That I don't know. I don't know that. I told you. I'm not going to be caught in this. It's too much media game with that. I'll look what stuff happens. Executive Order 13818, Trump's third executive order, says that anybody caught in human trafficking, they will be prosecuted and seized. Go read the order. Go read Executive Order 13825, where they're actually allowed to go after government officials with military justice codes. If you've served in the military, you know it's very different, military justice versus civil justice rules. Go read those two executive orders. Any other president could have wrote such things to protect and stop human trafficking. None did. So you could kick whatever rocks you want at him. You could say he sucks. I don't care what else they spin in the media. He did that, and there's been all kinds of drives since to save the kids. There has been constant push. So whatever else you want to say about him, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I just look at his deeds, the ones that count the most.
And I will say, and I don't disagree that Trump did things that were beneficial to the country. I didn't think he was a horrible president legislative wise. However, I think the reason why Trump resonates so well with you and other folks similar, where it's simply because of what you just admitted. I can see the good things he did and how beneficial they are to the country, and the things that it may have been bad, I really haven't paid attention to. So you're judging him through a filtered lens where I only see the good. So he should come out as one of the best presidents we've ever had.
I've never said he doesn't make flaws. So I said I can't chase that. I don't live a life chasing the negative about anything for anybody. I always try to give them the best shoe they can put forward.
Yeah, I'm not talking flaws. I gave you clear-cut examples of him pardoning folks who have been charged with serious crimes after you said he was there to drain the swamp. And I asked you,
I understand that, but I only have a pay level of X. I don't have the pay level that's I can understand what's going on behind. I was involved in politics short enough to know that there are many levels and many kingmakers and many layers that go way beyond what you think you understand. And I've learned that much to know there's way more above my pay grade. So why he did or not, I can't speak that. For the public narrative, that's why I said I don't agree with the public narrative. Public narrative would say these guys suck, Trump sucks for pardoning him. Okay, I can see that. And I don't dispute it with you, but I'm looking at the fact but these are the things that are really important that he has done. They have long-term consequential impact for the country that no other president did. No other one ever did it. So, yeah, he's got some other weird shit he's done or wrong stuff. I get it. But there's some really massive things. Like, here's another one. He took out of Congress's hands the constant manipulation of historical black universities and gave them permanent funding, right? Congress played ping pong games with it because it was a political token. He took it out of their hands, permanently funded it, said, quit screwing with these guys, leave them alone, and set up permanent funding. Here's another thing he did. He went to the tribes of, I forgot the Indian nation in Oregon, but he gave back a bunch of federal land when he was president to them. There's now the half of Oregon is under an Indian nation management, and they don't even know it. Like he did that. There's all kinds of stuff that he's done while all this noise is going on. So it's just wrong what you want to focus on. I get it. There's noise. He's done some dumb shit. I get it. But every president had. Even Clinton with all of his Monica Lewinsky shit people made a big deal about. Like every guy on the planet closed door go like, okay, so he did. But in the public, it's got to be a big old reason to distract you and say, this president, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's all that game. And I don't tolerate it.
I got to move it on, man.
All right, man.
Good talk.
Stay well.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, good talk. Bye. All right. And listen, the guy, he has his points. I'm not disagreeing with everything he's saying. I'm just pointing out that he made it clear he can see the good. And as he stated, well, the bad things don't have a long-term impact or, it's just stupid shit or whatever you want to deem it as. However, if you're one of those Hispanics that got patted down or something like that for simply walking around looking brown, is this stupid shit to you in terms of long-term impact? What about the notion that may permanently affect how brown people feel when they see a guy walking toward them with a badge on? Is that long-term impact? It depends on how you take things. I just wanted to point that out because he used the phrase orange man bad. I hear that a lot. Trump was just coming to try to correct the wrongs of this country, expose corruption, and people didn't give him a chance. Orange man bad. And the point I'm trying to make is maybe he kind of did things to bring that on himself. But if you just view his actions and stupid shit, then yeah, in my opinion, and you guys can tell me where I'm wrong, I'll go right back to the box. In my opinion, you are making your own job harder for yourself by doing, as he put it, stupid shit that does not benefit you. It does not benefit you at all. Going back to the box. Wait a minute here. Lamo737, I believe this is a new caller. Nevertheless, you're welcome to the program. Why do police don't give Republicans with 42 rebel and Trump flags on their vehicles to jail? Is that a crime? That's not a crime, George Cherry. Why do the police don't give Republicans with 40 rebel and Trump flags on their vehicles to jail? I don't get your question in its entirety, but it doesn't sound, I don't see where a crime is being committed in there. Orange Man was a snake that bit himself. Joe, for some reason my box is spinning, so I'll give it a moment to clear out, and we'll do it again. Let's talk about all the bad that the Democrats are currently doing. Rocky G222, you're welcome to come in the box. We can discuss any Democrat that you want to discuss that is doing bad things for the country. Democrats are not perfect. I'm sure that there's a host of things you can point out that Democrats are not doing very well. Hunter Biden, by the way, is not a Democrat. I don't disagree that Hunter Biden looks guilty of sin, but he is not a politician. You got to be able to show his dad was in on the game. And 10% to the big guy is not enough. You got to be able to show some evidence that dad was in on that. But Hunter Biden, the son, is not a politician. I understand you want him, and I understand why, but at the end of the day, he's not a Democratic politician. Rep 8319, I know you're not. We're going to go to the White Rose.
There we go.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for letting me in.
Good to talk. So what's on your mind?
Something? I'm amazed by what these MAGA people are saying. Trump put.
Give me an example.
Trump put my people in cages. People that look like me, Latinos, and that's okay with them. People are coming.
Well, what about the notion that Obama was doing that as well?
Yeah, but Obama. Let's say that Obama was doing that, right? But Obama, probably did it in a humanistic way. And by that, I mean that when Trump put these kids in cages, right? There was stories that little girls didn't have feminine products. They were sleeping on the floor. I mean, listen, I treat my dogs better than my people were treated. Now, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm not Mexican. But I feel that in my soul. I'm like, wow, this is what most of the country that's racist like he is feel about me. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, I hear you. So give me an example of why you believe that Trump or MAGA or Trump supporters do not like Hispanics. Give me what makes you believe that? I'm just curious.
I'm going to tell you why. The reason is not only that they don't like Hispanics, it's that they don't like blacks too. We are becoming or have become the majority in this country. They are afraid that if we get into power, all the shit that they have done to us for over 200 years is going to come back and bite them in the ass.
Wow. So let me ask you something. I'll run this by. You can give me whatever opinion you want on it. I invite whatever you have to say about it. I've heard folks suggest that the reason the Republican Party is so gung-ho in regards to rolling back abortion rights is that the vast majority of abortions is trying to create more humans by using women as incubators to make that happen. Does that sound ridiculous? Have you heard of anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard of something like that, and yeah, I'm 60 years old, right? And when I was in college, I read a book by this guy. He was like this freaking Republican right-leaning person. And he said the only way to save America in the future is to have more white babies. Right now, Black people and Latino people have been, in the last 20 or 30 years, having more and more babies. So what happens? white people see that they're losing power, and they're saying, okay, well, I don't want to become a minority in the country because you know how we've been treated in this country. We haven't been treated fair. Yeah. In no way have black people or Latino people, no matter what any Trump supporter says, we've been treated fair. And it's come to a point that it's like, yeah, I honestly think that they're saying that Republicans are saying, okay, let's gut abortion. And if it's a 10-year-old girl who has a baby, that's a future voter. We don't care. But they should care about who's going to take care of them. I mean, are our tax dollars going to go to these kids who are unwanted forever? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that the Republicans with gutting abortion are saying, okay, we need more white kids?
You know, I would have a hard time accepting that. However, I've talked to enough folks on my little corner of social media that has come out and admitted it. In fact, I talked to at least 5 different folks who claim to be MAGA. That could be all made up. They could be Democratic plants. I don't hell if I know. But they certainly identify with MAGA. And yeah, they admitted it. Came out and admitted it. So I don't know where to go. I can't say it's this side when he got this side saying, yes, it's true. So, yeah, I've had folks come on my program and admit it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is the way I think about it, right? Most MAGA people think that they're losing the country. The phrase "Make America Great Again" is really make America white again. Because a lot of these MAGAs keep saying, well, listen, we should turn back the clock 50 years. What happened 50 years ago to people of your color and people of my complexion? It wasn't a good time for us, my brother.
I don't think, you make a good point. I don't think anyone has a decent explanation for what Make America Great means that's going to suffice to minorities. Because obviously when you say again, you're referencing something that happened in the past. Right. And I say it all the time. I don't give a shit how bad you think 2022 is. There is not a single day in the past that you will be better off going back to if you're a minority. I don't care if it's the 80s, 90s, or whatever. Right. This is the best time there ever has been in this country for minorities, and tomorrow will be a better day. Going backwards for minorities is essentially racial suicide. So, I have not heard anyone give a good explanation for what Make America Great means that blacks or Hispanics are going to be okay with, or even women, women. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened 50 years ago. Our greatest leaders assassinated: Kennedy, freaking Martin, freaking Malcolm, Marcus. I mean, it's like, really, this is the America that you want? You want us to go back to a point that we were subservient to you, because that's what it was.
So what about? I got 4 reels in the comments that's claiming that MAGA, Make America Great Again, is a slogan from the Triple K. I don't know about that. Now, keep in mind, that slogan was not created by Trump. I had a live where I showed the actual buttons. They used to wear campaign buttons on them during election time. Ronald Reagan used it, and so did Bill Clinton. So that slogan has been used before. But unfortunately for Trump, it's probably going to be retired with President Trump. It's just like, I hate to say it, but the swastika, for instance, it was used long before Hitler. But he essentially retired that symbol. And I think Make America Great Again is probably going to be retired with Trump. I don't think you'll ever hear another politician use that.
I hope not. I don't know what to tell you, brother. I'm like, when it comes to Trump, he has done so much shit to us minorities that it's just not funny. The gentleman before me said, oh, well, he gave money to HBCUs. No, he didn't. He didn't give money to HBCUs.
That's a very common statement, too. Right. I hear that a lot. Give me your spiel on it. Go ahead.
Right. You know why? Because the Congress holds the purse strings. Only Congress could authorize giving out any money. A president of the United States could not come over and say, oh, well, Joe Schmo, I'm going to give you $1 million. No, it has to go through Congress.
Well, I got a counter with Joe Biden saying, well, I'm going to give you $10,000 in student loan forgiveness. That didn't go through Congress.
No, it is going through Congress. It is going through Congress. I mean, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I know that a lot of times when a president says that he wants to give out money, it usually has to go to Congress. I mean,
that's what they're complaining about on Joe Biden, is that it did not. Real quick, what about this here? This is from Ed London in the comments. He says MAGA is less government and more you. In other words, Make America Great Again, MAGA supports taking the government out of your lives and letting the people run the country, which is why they favor it. How do you view that?
I mean, where is the government in our lives? I mean, right now.
Oh, a host of places. I mean, well, shit, abandoning abortion is a good example now.
But I mean, in the individual life of you. I mean, I go to work. I could go to church. I could like walk down the street. I mean, what exactly are they trying to say that? Where is the government in your life personally? If you're in your house,
the government is all over your life. The government is all over your life. Your tax money, so you can't earn wages without them knowing how much and taking their cut. I mean, you can't drive a car without all types of taxes and registration on that, your house. I mean, the government's all over the place. There's all types of things. You can't go digging in your backyard without calling them first. The government is all over your life. There's no denying that. You can't do hardly anything without government approval nowadays.
Okay, well, I could agree with that, but I'm saying my point is the individual. Okay. Like, for instance, I've had lives where people tell me, "Oh, they're all in my life." I'm like, "How are they all in your life when you, as an individual, could do what the fuck you want?"
That's not true, though. Walk out the door. What do you like to do for fun? What do you like to do for fun? Give me a hobby that you enjoy.
I like collecting antiques.
Okay, if you collect antiques, when you buy antiques from other people, are those locations regulated? I mean, do they have to pay taxes? There are certain things that you do that you may like to do, and the government is even involved in that. There's nothing you really can do in this country that the government is not somehow involved in. They are in your life. You may not be feeling oppressed by them, but they're certainly in your life.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I understand 100% what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I got to move it on. You know how we do. Hey, is this our first time talking?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, anytime you see me on, come on back. I'll certainly like to speak to you again. Definitely a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, great. Thank you for letting me in. Right. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Good talk. Comments, 87,000 more from Biden. 87,000 more what from Biden? You talking about tax agents? Those IRS agents? I'll tell you this, because I hear a lot of right-wingers that are going nuts about the IRS agents and saying they're going to come and get us. I'm going to give you my spiel on it, and like I always say, I invite dissent, criticism, or whatever the hell you want to throw at me. I don't ban free speech or censor anyone. I personally believe, remember those PPP loans, personal protection, personal whatever the hell personal payroll or payroll protection program. I think that's what those acronyms stand for. I'm from the inner city of Chicago, and there were a hell of a lot of folks, because I was invited myself. Fortunately, I didn't participate, being a law-abiding citizen, in getting free money, lying about businesses, pretending you had an LLC, filling out shit for other people to scam the system. I personally believe those 87,000 agents are for that. There is a lot of money to be recouped from PPP loan scammers. And Biden just signed a bill last month that extends the statute of limitations on how long they can go after PPP loan fraudsters until the year 2032. 10 additional years. So if you've defrauded the government, they have up to 2032 to catch your ass. That's a bill that was signed by Biden. And at a time where they put on 87,000 new IRS agents. If you don't see the coincidence in that, especially from my QAnon, my conspiracy theorists, my folks who don't trust the government to begin with. 87,000 agents and extending the amount of time they can get you for PPP loans, all done within the same month of each other. You're not putting two and two together on that? You're not realizing how many millions of dollars they can recoup by going after those folks who got that money fraudulently? That's where I believe those agents are targeting. Now, obviously, they may end up being used for other shit, like the Patriot Act was supposed to be for terrorists, and now they're arresting drug dealers and imposing RICO acts on everybody. I get the idea that if you give government an inch, they'll take a mile. I'm not disagreeing with that. However, I disagree with the notion that we need to get rid of government and let the people run the country. Why the hell would I say that? Look at my face. You think an African American is going to be a fan of letting the people run the country and small government? Hell, the only reason we're free is because Lincoln used the big government to free us. And because John F. Kennedy with Lyndon B. Johnson used big government to give us civil rights. The people were treating us like shit. So why would we want to go away from big government and go back to the same situation that treated us like shit, hoping that, well, now that time has passed by, maybe they'll treat us better? Who's going to do that? If you believe you should have a firearm to help prevent tyranny, to make sure you're never dealing with a tyrannical government, and we haven't faced tyranny in this country, at least from a Caucasian standpoint, in hundreds of years, why the hell would you expect me to go back to small government? That's why you have folks now that have a problem with the notion that rolling back Roe v. Wade is not banning abortion, but simply returning rights back to the states. Make no mistake about it. Anytime you go from big government to rolling rights back to the states, somebody is losing rights. The states want to have the right to control themselves so that they can disproportionately target certain parts of the population. That is the history of America. It makes no sense in 2022 to ignore our entire history and pretend like the shit ain't gonna happen again. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. What is the phrase about being doomed to repeat history? Those who don't learn are doomed to repeat it. Our history of states' rights in this country, to quote Hillary Clinton, is deplorable. Returning back to that notion is only beneficial if you look like one type of person. I'm just going to give it to you from that standpoint. And it's going to be hard as hell to get me to pretend like all of that didn't happen. And if somehow we return the rights back to the states, things in 2022 are going to be a hell of a lot better than they were in 1952. When some of those folks are still alive. It's hard to trust that. Listen, folks, I am on lunch break. I do appreciate you guys riding with me as always. You could be anywhere you want on TikTok. And I appreciate the fact that you're hanging out with me. Follow the channel. We do this every day, generally at 7 p.m. this evening. Still wanting to find out why the hell Trump is having such a hard time getting major law firms to defend him. Why so many law firms disassociating themselves from Trump? Apparently, a few major law firms didn't even return this call. It's having a hard time finding good lawyers to defend him. We're talking about that tonight at 7. Appreciate that fry sub that rose. I'll catch you guys back this evening at 7. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Y'all have a good day now.